care to. Hey fish family, welcome back to Tabarak Aquatics. I'm Ross, and you're here in my fish room. Alright, tonight I just want to do just a little discussion. Yes, I'm going to give my opinion on something about water changes, okay? And I think I'm decided to title this those that preach no water changes are not the lazy ones. And you know, it's been a whole lot of conversation, debate around water changes, people who title videos no more water changes and all that stuff, and they got this idea of you know, you don't have to do water changes. Okay, I'm just going to put my 2 cents in. I waited for it to sort of die down and let the air clear and the dust settle a little bit, because I don't want to give this opinion or conversation in the spirit of confrontational debate. You know, I just want to say, yes, it is possible. You know, from the way it was, I've never tried it, but it seems reasonable the way it was explained, but under very, very strict and certain circumstances. Okay, so firstly, like I stated from the onset, is that those who preach no water changes are not the lazy ones, and they're not, because it take a lot of work. A lot of effort, a lot of tinkering and figuring things out to get your tank just right, where you have to do minimal to no water changes. Okay, there are a lot of sacrifices to get your tank like that. For me, one of the sacrifices is that you have by my opinion, an ugly, boring tank. Okay, ugly, boring tank. That's one of the sacrifices. You have a tank. You know, I like fish in my water. I like fish in the water. You know, I like plants just fine, but I want, you know, I buy these tanks to keep fish. You know, not plants. You know, I like planting tanks. I'm getting into it and everything. I love plants, house plants, garden plants, the whole nine. But this is the idea of this thing is to be able to keep fish in the water. And in order to keep fish in the water, you would do best to get in the habit of doing water changes. So I say those guys are not the lazy ones, because they do put work and effort in to get their tanks to that point. But the lazy ones are the ones who they attract to the channels, because lazy people will see that and will flock to that and just, you know, eat it up, and you'll get all kinds of views, and yeah, the algorithm on YouTube will be rocking and rolling and everything else, but quite frankly, I think it's a tad bit irresponsible the way a lot of people have been presenting it. You know, we call ourselves fish nerds because we're very much into aquariums and fish and stuff like that. We call ourselves fish nerds. And if you ask me, my opinion is that people who really push the idea and the notion of keeping fish tanks with no water changes, I think they are beyond fish nerd. They're extreme. And it's okay for them to be that way. Everybody got a right to be themselves, just not at the expense of other people. They are what you call fish. I call them fish spazzes. They spastastic. They spazzes. Extra nerdy, extra geek. It's just extreme. Because first and foremost, we got to recognize that some of us, we have a God complex because we keep live animals and we create these ecosystems, so to speak, you know, environments. But we have to remember that, you know, unless you have a big lake, big pond outside, you're going to do water changes. water change is going to be necessary. Okay, you have to understand that these little glass boxes of water that are contained, you know, that you have a contained environment, an enclosed environment, and first of all, you're not God, but you have to understand you have these small volumes of water with, in most cases, too many occupants, too many animals in there. It would behoove you to do water changes, you know. I often say, you know, in case you haven't heard, I'll say it again, I often say that we really keep water in bacteria. The fish is just, you know, the caveat of extra, but really your main responsibility in this hobby is to keep water and to keep bacteria. And in order to keep healthy water and healthy bacteria, you're going to have to do some water changes simply because we have several reasons, okay? Let's say we talk about having ammonia spikes and having too many nitrates. Now, of course, you know, your ammonia will, you know, transform into another bacteria that eats nitrites, and nitrites will, you know, the byproduct of that is nitrates, and so you have two different bacteria. The bacteria that eat the ammonia turn, and the byproduct is nitrites, and then you have a bacteria that eat the nitrites, and the byproduct of that is nitrates. And then, you know, you have people who argue and say, okay, put a bunch of plants in, and the plants will eat up the nitrates, and you know, that's how you can do it that way. But you have other things going on in your water other than ammonia, you know, nitrites and nitrates. You have other things going on, KH and GH. I can't do a whole lot explaining on KH and GH because I'm not well versed. I just know that I need to pay attention to it and keep it balanced out. I will say something that has been impacting me a lot is pH, because I have very low pH. All of my tanks, the pH is very low. It comes out the tap pretty low, and being that I keep a lot of fish, a lot of driftwood, and then you have waste and stuff like that, what happens is that lowers the pH that much more. And when you lower the pH below 6, then what happens is that the ammonia is converted to ammonium, and then you have a different cycle going on because there's a whole different bacteria that eats the ammonium. So the ammonia becomes neutral, kind of like, you know, but then you have a different bacteria that eats the ammonium, and it's not as efficient. That system is not as efficient as the ammonia, you know, cycle system. Okay, it's not quite as efficient, but it's real, and that's, most people keep black water tanks and keep very, very low pH, keep that type of, you know, tank. Okay. I don't want to go too far into it, but I just want to say that there's a whole lot of things that you have to consider. Because if you have your tank and your cycle based on ammonia, and then all of a sudden your pH drops so low that your ammonia is converted to ammonium, and now you got a whole different bacteria going on, and then your bacteria that was eating the ammonia dies off because it's no longer ammonia but ammonium, and you got a whole different thing going on. Now your whole ecosystem is changed up, and being that it's not as efficient as before, your nitrites shoot up, fish get sick, they get nitrite burn, you have deaths, die, you have constant issues. So you won't have those, you'll have a lot of inconsistencies. You won't have a consistently healthy atmosphere or ecosystem for your tank or for your fish. So the other thing is that pH will drop really low because of the buildup of the detritus and the wood and the other stuff that's going on. So okay, let's say you have plants that's eating up nitrates. You have plants eating up nitrates. But what about the other stuff that's going on in the tank, the waste and detritus in the wood, and you know, the plant leaves dying off, and all that other stuff is going on, and the fish respiration. You know, they have a respiratory system too, and what happens? All that stuff drops your pH, and again, you have a pH problem. And even if it don't get so low that it converts into a whole different cycle system, still a lot of your fish have a problem with a really low pH. You know, some fish thrive at a really low pH, but then you have others that really suffer. So it'd be ideal to keep a neutral pH. So it's just so many factors that you have to consider when you're talking about no water changes. Then you want to think about water clarity. Of course, you want to think about water clarity, and you know, aesthetics and all that stuff. You know, I can go on and on, but I won't. I'll just say that it is probably a little irresponsible to throw that out there. I don't know if people throw it out there as clickbait, or if they throw it out there simply because they assume that everybody was on the same level of fish keeping that they're on. Not everybody's on that level of fish keeping, and even some of us, some of those, I won't include myself, some of those who are on that level of fish keeping aren't interested in keeping fish the same way you're keeping fish. So I think it's a little bit irresponsible, because the new those of us who coming into fish keeping and we're new to it, if we misunderstand and kill some fish off and then get mad and decide to quit the hobby just based on the misconception or being misled that you don't have to do water changes. And then you have those lazy people. I get people all the time that just want to do the bare minimum. You have people who actually spend a lot of money on big tanks and expensive fish who still don't want to do their weekly water changes, and they still don't want to feed their fish, you know, more than once or twice a week. You know, they don't have attractive looking fish. I know people who have the same type of fish that I have, and their fish don't look nowhere near as good as my fish look. They want to buy the cheapest food. They don't want to do any work. You know, they don't want to have meds on hand. They don't want to be responsible fish keepers. Well, if you want to encourage responsible fish keepers, we have to start with ourselves and be responsible when we give the information or share the information. You have to thoroughly explain that, hey, this way of keeping fish is strictly for a specific type of person. Don't just throw it out there and make everybody think that you can do this no water change thing. It's not something for most. It's not something that's for most. It's something that's for the very few, low percentage of people out there that keep 3 minnows or 4 guppies in a 55-gallon, 75-gallon tank with a whole bunch of plants, so many plants that you can't even find a damn fish. If you're talking about that tank, yeah, it'll work for that tank. But if you're talking about a tank like any of the tanks that I keep, I like to keep big fish. I like to keep a lot of them. I do have some with some small fish in them, but still a lot of them. And then the tanks that only have 1 or 2 fish in, they're big, really big. You'll just do best by doing water changes. Then the other benefits, I know I'm going on, but I'm going to go on anyway. The other benefit of doing water changes is that you get to observe your fish and you find out things that you haven't been catching. I'm not going to say you haven't been paying attention to. I'm just going to say that has not caught your eye or has gone under the radar. That's, comment, please let me know if you agree or disagree. Usually I find, I discover sick fish and certain illnesses and, missing eyeballs and a dead fish behind a piece of driftwood. You find out things in your tank when you're doing your water changes. That's when you learn things. You see how the fish react. The ones that's, you're disrupting the tank and you see the fish is still lethargic or whatever. That's when you say, oh, this fish must be sick. There's just so many benefits. And really, to me, if you ask me, it's rewarding to take care of these fish. It's rewarding. It's therapeutic to take care of these fish. And think of it this way. Again, let's say you in a room and people are farting in the room, peeing in the corner, smoking cigarettes, smoking cigars, and doing all kinds of stuff. And instead of opening the window and changing the air out, you got people coming here with spray, Lysol spray, and this spray and that spray, air neutralizer spray and everything like that. So basically, you're still breathing the stale air that has been somewhat cleansed, but it's still the same old stale air you're breathing. Don't you think you'll be just a little more healthier and happier if you open the window and let the stale air out and let some clean air in? Think about it. The same thing in these tanks. Don't you think these fish will be just a little bit happier and a little bit healthier? And if you, instead of putting a Band-Aid on it and spraying some perfume on a funky spot, change the water out. Put some fresh water in there. Your fish will thank you for it. You got to remember what we're getting this hobby for. We're getting this hobby to take care of these fish. Not to just, I hope we got in the hobby to take care of the fish. Or did you get them just so you can put them in a glass box and look at them? Well, anyway, I've been running on, but that's my spill, that's my thing, that's my input as far as these water changes is concerned. I'm going to go ahead and leave it right there, y'all. Okay? So do your water changes, buy good food, feed them good food, take care of your fish. It'll make you happier, and also it'll be more costly fishing because you'll have less fish deaths. Trust me, I know a whole lot about fish deaths. Okay? Until next time, y'all, happy fish keeping. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.